Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you how I apply epoxy and the materials that I use to mix my epoxy. For this one I'm going to use these little measuring cups. I believe they're 1 fluid ounce. I'm going to try and post the link for you below. If not, then you can just find them on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. Then I use this little wooden stick to mix my epoxy once I have it combined. I just bought them at Walmart in the craft section. This is what the bag looks like, or the packaging. So I'm going to be using Fox Rizzle in this video. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. If I'm not, please feel free to correct me. Keep in mind that epoxy needs to be measured in equal parts. That's why I use 2 different measuring cups. Two separate measuring cups. Also, what I do is I try to keep, I have a little heater that I usually have facing my bottles of epoxy. And I do that for about maybe 10 minutes before I even start measuring or anything like that. Just so it starts heating up. Most epoxy needs to be within a temperature of 75. So you want to make sure wherever it is that you're going to be doing your mixing and applying, for it to cure and stuff, you want to keep either a little heater on it or the room at 75 degrees. So this little white bowl that you see that I'm picking stuff off of, I use this bowl to combine my epoxy. Once it's measured, I pour it into this bowl and I pour part B in first, and then I pour part A. The reason I use a silicone bowl is because it's easier to mix the epoxy and it's an easy cleanup. Epoxy doesn't stick to the silicone, so once it's cured, it's easy just to pop it off. I'm not sure if that makes any sense to you guys. You don't have to use a silicone bowl. You can use a bigger type of container. I've used a bigger measuring cup. I've used a glass measuring cup, but I overall just use the silicone one because after trying different things, I prefer the silicone one. Like I said, it's just easier. It's an easier cleanup once it's cured. Now, when you're measuring your epoxy, there's no right or wrong way to do it. You can do your A first or your B first. It doesn't matter. You just have to know that it has to be equal parts of your epoxy. And then when you're going to combine it, you want to pour in your B first and then your A. After you get your epoxy combined, you're going to use your wooden stick or whatever it is that you're going to use to mix your epoxy. I know some people use silicone sticks, some people use wooden sticks. Everybody has their own preference. I prefer the wooden stick. So once I combine it, as you can see that I'm doing in the video, I'm going to start stirring it. You want to scrape it off from the sides. Get as much of it out as you can. Once you start stirring it, for the Fox Rizzle, I store it for 3 to 4 minutes. I know on the bottle, I think it says 4 to 5 minutes. I'm not sure if that's for large batches or for a small batch like what I'm doing. But I just do it for 3 to 4 minutes just to be on the safe side. And I make sure to scrape the sides of the silicone bowl. I'm trying to make sure I mix it all in really well. I also sometimes I'll have a little heater again facing the little bowl that I'm mixing, just so the heat stays there. It just makes it more it makes it kind of watery. I don't want to say watery, but kind of runny. So it's just easier to mix because I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. The heat just helps everything settle together faster and better. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but that's just what I do. So here, instead of using the heater, I'm just using a heat gun. You can find these at Hobby Lobby. I'm not sure if Michael's has them. I found mine at Hobby Lobby. I know some people have found them at Harbor Freight. It, to me, works the same as a heater. So yeah, like I said, I just like applying the heat as I'm mixing. It just makes it easier for me to mix it and set. I don't know, everybody has their own preference, so I'm just trying to show you some of the steps that I take when I'm mixing it and getting it all ready to apply to a cup. Alright guys, I'm pretty much almost done mixing my epoxy. If you noticed that there's like little bubbles, I haven't seen any issue with the epoxy. Like if there is little bubbles as far as applying it, like you can't notice anything, at least I don't. If there's big air bubbles, I do go at it again with a heat gun. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it as far as getting your epoxy ready to apply. Now, what I do is after I mix it, I let it sit for maybe about a minute or two, and then I start applying it. Okay, so here you can see I have one of my cups. This is just a solid colored cup that I spray painted and decaled. And I am just applying the epoxy with my finger. I try and like just put a little bit here and there, and then once I get it all around, I'm going to start smoothing it out with my finger. Please keep in mind that you want to always wear gloves if you're going to apply it with your finger, because some people can have an allergic reaction to the epoxy. The epoxy also has like when it starts to cure, it has like a warm feeling to it. So to keep from any type of damage to your skin or having a reaction, and also to prevent from leaving like the oils that your fingers have onto the cup, I recommend using gloves. There are some people who use like a mask, because sometimes some epoxies, I have used epoxy that has like a slight little smell to it, and yeah, I'm not sure how well that is when you're breathing it in. I've never used a mask. I've been fine so far, thank God. But like I said, I've seen where people do use a mask. You just always need to use gloves. Please keep that in mind. As you see, I'm just smoothing the epoxy onto the cup. I don't do the bottom of the cups. I just prefer not to. And when you get to the rim of the cup, just be careful how can I say this? How like far up you're going. You don't want to get the epoxy inside the cup, and you really don't want to go like over the rim. The reason you don't want to go over the rim is because the lid is made to fit a certain way onto your cup. So you want to be very careful with that. Now, I do want you to keep in mind that if you do get epoxy inside the cup, it's okay, because you can easily get like an X-Acto knife or a razor blade and pop it right off. It's not a big deal, but if you want to try not to have so much cleanup after the fact, just try and be careful, like how much you're getting towards the rim, so that way none gets inside. But again, it's not a big deal. It's an easy cleanup. So here I'm using the heat gun, and the reason I'm using the heat gun is because as I was smoothing it on, there was a little spot that I saw looked almost like it had an air bubble in it. So when I see that, I'll get the heat gun and run it across the cup. It helps eliminate the bubbles sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. They're just like stubborn. But again, it's not that big of a deal. to me, it's an easy fix. So yeah, it's kind of hard to explain when I say an easy fix, but I am gonna have a part 2 epoxy video coming, and that's gonna show you what happens after the cups cure. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, and leave any comments below or send me a message. Yeah, so again, hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good day.